now we have seen all of the headlines. A beautiful little 6-year-old beauty queen found brutally murdered in her home. America simply gasped in shock when they saw these precious pictures of her performing in pageants. It was in this house in Boulder, Colorado on December 26th that JonBenét Ramsey's parents found a ransom note demanding a peculiar $118,000, all for the return of their daughter. The family called the police, who then searched the house, finding nothing. But 8 hours later, JonBenét's father found his little girl's lifeless body in a basement closet. JonBenét's mouth was covered with duct tape, a white cord tied around her tiny neck. Authorities would later determine the child had also been sexually abused. It is horrifying to know that this pageant princess, who brought so much joy and happiness to so many people, met such a brutal and tragic death. The Ramsey family is offering a $50,000 reward to anyone who can help solve this brutal murder, we should point out. Well, we decided on today's show to talk about the controversies that are now surfacing, all from the death of this child beauty queen. We're going to talk to pageant directors who organized JonBenét's last performance just before her death. We're also going to talk to Steve Dunleavy, senior columnist for the New York Post, who says the media is the best ally when trying to flush out the villain. And we're also going to debate whether the media might have gone too far when publishing the crime scene and the coroner photos in the Globe. Later in this show, do baby beauty pageants build self-confidence, self-esteem, or do they rob children of their innocence? We're going to have that debate too. It has been 5 weeks since the brutal murder of 6-year-old JonBenét Ramsey, and still mystery surrounds this case. Here to tell us the latest on the murder investigation, I'd like you to welcome from Denver, Colorado via satellite, Steve Gendell, who is Team AJ senior correspondent. Steve, thanks for being with us. Please update us on what is going on in the investigation, what the mood is, what are you finding out there?
Okay, hi Rolonda. First of all, thanks for having me on the show.
Sure.
Let me just say that actually being in Boulder, standing at the Ramsey house, is a very moving experience, and it brings a very tragic story to life. It stops being just a story when you look in the backyard and you see the little blue swings and you know JonBenét's laughter will never be heard there again. And then you think about the anguish of the parents, which is a big part of the story. Not only are they going through the brutal loss of their daughter, but they don't want to be in their home. Friends of Patsy Ramsey tell us that she says she'll never set foot in, quote, that hellhole again. They've got the house up for sale. They had friends go in, pack clothes. They're living out of suitcases and boxes, staying with friends, different friends, in and around Boulder. But they don't even have the subtle feeling of being at home. And then, of course, there's very little happening in the investigation. As you say, now past the month point, and police still say they have no suspects in mind. They have a long list, but nobody that they've named. No arrests have been made. As far as we know, Rolonda, nobody's even been told, don't leave town.
Well, Steve,
so
isn't this creating a great deal of tension among people who may be very concerned that there's a killer running around there who might have just killed a child?
Well, absolutely. Although most people seem to think that this wasn't a random act, it had something to do with the Ramseys or JonBenét or that house specifically, but still I can tell you all the little kids I've talked to are scared. There's a certain uneasiness among parents, and everybody has a generally unsettled feeling about what's going on. Are the police moving fast enough? Aren't they moving fast enough? Why do the Ramseys have their own investigative team? Why don't they? A couple things we were told, for example. One, Patsy Ramsey was asked to give a handwriting sample. Well, you can imagine that. But we were told the handwriting sample consisted of having her write out verbatim the ransom note. Imagine having a mother do that. She did it, but she didn't feel very good about writing those heinous words out in her own handwriting. And then there's the mystery. The ransom note, remember, asked for an odd number, $118,000. Now we understand that John Ramsey received a bonus from his company Access Graphics of $118,000 at the end of 1995.
So is that somebody who knew that information, you think?
Well, it could be. It could be. Ordinarily, you'd say, aha, it's an inside job. But Rolonda, let me tell you something about Boulder. It's a very open, very trusting, very close community. Friends have all rallied around the Ramseys, for example. But it's very trusting. I got out of a friend's car the other night and I forgot to lock it. And being a New Yorker, I said, oops, quick, let's go lock the car. He said, no, you don't have to. The Ramseys were very trusting. We've had friends who said they would leave their checkbooks open. They wouldn't hide things around the house. So it's possible, just possible, that somebody was in that house knew, but not necessarily an insider, which is why this investigation is so difficult. It takes you in so many directions. Yet very trusting, honest people, which means their house was available to lots of folks.
Also joining us on satellite from Denver, Colorado, are Wayne and Susie. They ran Denver's Royal Miss competitions. In fact, they organized the event in which JonBenét made her last performance just before her death. Wayne and Susie, you saw JonBenét. When you heard this news about this little girl who you had helped perform, what was your gut reaction? Wayne?
Well, one of astonishment and disbelief. Susie and I were sitting at home watching the evening news, and there was a live feed from Boulder, Colorado, and we heard the name JonBenét Ramsey, and it was spoken rather quickly. And we didn't know whether we heard it right. We both came up off of the couch from where we were sitting, and Susie frantically ran to the phone and tried to call the Ramsey residence, and of course no one answered. And then she proceeded to try to call the local news station here, which we were viewing on television, and I don't know whether she was successful in...
Susie, what were you feeling as you were doing that? Because I understand that she was quite a precious little girl.
She certainly was. I can't honestly tell you what I was feeling at the moment. I was basically in shock. I wanted someone to tell me that we didn't hear that name. It was somebody else I misunderstood. And I finally got a hold of someone at the Rocky Mountain News here in Colorado, and they were reluctant to verify the name, but they did. And it was kind of a blur after that. We were just so, I and my whole family, we were so emotionally distraught. And of course we had little or no information at that time. And it was extremely terrifying.
One of the ways that all of us across this nation who give so much condolences to the Ramsey family, one of the things that we're doing is getting our information from the media. And I understand that you guys aren't real happy with how the media has been attacking this story.
Well, we stayed, basically we stayed quiet as long as we could out of respect for the Ramsey family and of course our own grief. You know, we've had a lot of anguish over the way that JonBenét has been portrayed as simply a beauty queen when she was so much more. She was, you know, such a beautiful, talented, adorable child, and so for her to be portrayed in such a manner as just a beauty queen just seems so unfair. But then, on the other hand, some media personnel have chose to really stay focused on her as a child and portray her as the beautiful 6-year-old that was talented and gave so much joy to all of us.
You know, Susie and Wayne, there's so many people who are following this story and say, you know, well, you know, this little girl sure looked grown. She had a lot of makeup on, and she had more changes in clothes. Maybe her mom was pushing her in this. Maybe Patsy Ramsey was one of those stage mothers who was pushing her child and taking her childhood away. Do you agree with that?
Absolutely not. Of course, we've heard those comments, and I've addressed them many times. If anyone has been to a performance of the Nutcracker during the holiday season, you saw children on stage with makeup on, and as a performer, anyone who's done those kind of things, you definitely have makeup on when you're on stage. But when the makeup was off, the lights were off, she was an adorable child that behaved just like any other 6-year-old who was extremely bright. Patsy has such a wonderful relationship with all the members of her family, and she was extremely close to JonBenét. And I think that as a parent, we enjoy so much the activities that our children do, but to say that she pushed her was definitely not the truth, because anybody who's watched the child knows that she truly loved being on stage.
Mm-hmm. Wayne and Susie, while you have anguish over some of the ways that the media has been covering this story of a little girl that you knew, when we come back, we're going to talk to Steve Dunleavy, who is a New York Post columnist. He says it makes him angry when he hears that the media is being blamed for a lot of things that have gone wrong in the JonBenét Ramsey murder investigation. He's going to speak out right after this.
I want to be a cowboy sweetheart. I want to learn to rope and to ride. And all the places in the desert. And on the great divide.
Many of us have been so very saddened by the news of 6-year-old JonBenét Ramsey, the 6-year-old child who the pageant princess who was found brutally murdered with duct tape on her mouth, cord twisted around her neck. Authorities later determining she had been sexually abused as well. Our condolences certainly go out to the family. Joining us from Los Angeles via satellite, where he is currently reporting on the Enos Cosby murder, another story that has certainly gotten to most of us, is somebody who has written many powerful columns expressing his views on the JonBenét Ramsey murder case. I'd like you to welcome New York Post senior columnist Steve Dunleavy. Steve, we were just talking to Wayne and Susie, who were among the last to see JonBenét alive, who helped put on her final performance, and they were saying that they've become very anguished over the way that the media has been attacking the story. We see it every place. Do you think the media has gone too far with the attention being paid to this murder?
No, not at all. As a matter of fact, I'm a little bit sick and tired of this media bashing that's going on right now. Any intelligent investigator recognizes the media as, without a doubt, the best ally. I've been a journalist on 6 continents on almost 45 years, and I can tell you absolutely hundreds of times where the media has directly or indirectly solved a very, very serious crime. We only have to look at America's Most Wanted to know that there's 400 people or thereabouts who are now locked behind bars who would normally be running around the country causing rape, robbery, and mayhem.
Wayne, Susie, I know that you're going to have to go, but before you leave, is there anything that you'd like to say in rebuttal to that?
Well, I think Steve's correct. I think that the media can be used as an ally. I think in some instances, with regards to this investigation, they have not acted as such. And some of the portrayal of this child as a beauty queen, those were the headlines that we saw here for a number of days. And I mean that is sensationalism. As
no,
far
that's
as
not
some
sensationalism, Wayne. That's not sensationalism.
Well,
that's like talking about O.J. Simpson and not calling him a Heisman Trophy winner.
Well, I mean,
that was
Steve.
That was the absolute thrust of her life. This little girl whose hair's been blonded and teased since she was 3 years of age, a person groomed. Now, please, I mean, we can argue about beauty contests for little tiny tots, but let's look at the facts. I mean, her whole raison d'etre was being a tiny tot beauty queen.
That's absolutely incorrect.
Well, that's not true. You don't have your facts, Steve. There are many other activities that this child was involved in. So, and I'm not going to debate you on those things. Also,
we didn't see many videos of her playing with dolls. We didn't see many of those videos. We saw a lot of them. She had more changes than a Las Vegas showgirl. Now, I'm not blaming you as a beauty contestant proprietor in any way, shape, or form. I'm not blaming Patsy Ramsey, who has enough pain to deal with right now. But I do question the whole idea of dressing these little 6-year-olds up in adult costumes, almost simulating a strip. When I saw her in that cowboy outfit take off the bottom of her skirt, this is not what a 6-year-old girl's supposed to be all about.
Audience here.
I got a question. You're talking about these girls not having a childhood life, and they have all these clothes. So what you're saying is these girls going for the Olympics and things like that they also have no childhood life, and they shouldn't be doing what they do. My children all have a life.
These are your children. These are your. Come on, girls, stand up. These are beautiful little queens here.
They roller skate. They dance. They play. She has a twin brother. They fight. They're no different than any other kid on the street. Yeah, they have a wardrobe, but only during a pageant. Not that they don't wear this outside. You got to be crazy.
Well, listen, may I respond? I love to hear the fact that they are normal little girls. It's just that we haven't been shown by any shape or fame by any of these proprietors that they do other little things like fight with their brothers and go out and
okay, and how many people actually have videos of their children fighting or someone playing with dolls? Those are personal videos. What
Just
you have
because
seen,
you don't have the video, Steve, doesn't mean that this does not happen and does not exist. These are normal children.
and this was a
So that's
minor
the people
portion
that are
of her life.
participating
She
in
was
the
also
audience.
a very well-rounded student. She achieved academic success at her school. She was a member of a performing group that did a lot of community service work. She sang in her school choir as well as her church choir. She did a multitude of activities that are, quote, normal for children that are 6 years old.
From the audience. Yes.
I'd love to see more of it.
Well,
Yes.
and so would we, and we would encourage
My
these
name-
things. Pageantry should not be the focal point of anyone's life. It should be an activity that they choose to participate in, much the same as they choose another activity, such as, Girl Scouts or dancing, or whatever.
From the audience here, we have someone who wants to go.
Yes, good morning, Rolonda. My name is Joanne Guerin. I am the National Director of All Star Kids USA Pageants here in New York City. And in regards to the comments that you've made, Mr. Dunleavy, I'm sure that there are times some of your reports may help the police. The thing that has saddened us so much as parents, as people that have been involved in pageants, is the way you are portraying that child. The comments that are being made on a lot of the talk shows. I have spoken out, and I have been asked to speak on every talk show and speak on every news station, and I was very cautious in selecting what I thought would be a good media to express my views. I am not defending the world of pageantry. I'm not here to defend directors. My reputation in this industry is impeccable. I am here to defend my parents and my children. When I started this was a dream for me. My daughters were pageant children, and I saw something that was very healthy. I saw stuff that was fun. I loved the whole idea of a mom-daughter type of thing.
And you know something? You're going to get a lot of rebuttal to what you say, because a lot of people think it's turning kids it's doing everything but the things that you are trying to do. Let me just say thank you to Wayne and Susie for being with us. I appreciate your comments. We will continue this conversation. Also up next, has the media gone too far when crime scene and coroner photos make the front page of a tabloid paper? Tony Frost is the managing editor of the Globe, and he is defending his decision to publish photos of the deceased JonBenét. We'll continue this debate right after this commercial.
Favorite star, Julie Andrews. JonBenét likes to eat cherries.
Hey, I hope you're enjoying this episode of Rolonda, and I hope that you'll subscribe and follow so many of my other activities on my Rolonda channel, including some stand-up comedy, some podcasts, some great auntie advice, and loads of laughs and lots of fun. So subscribe and stay tuned. Now, let's get back to the show.
What I had to do personally is put myself in the position of the Ramseys, and that is, if it was my little girl, I don't think I'd want to see these photographs published publicly.
Since JonBenét's gruesome murder, her parents, John and Patricia, have remained in seclusion. And Boulder, Colorado Police Chief Tom Kobe has asked the media to back off. But as the case evolves, so does the amount of information that leaks to the press. It was a former sheriff's deputy by the name of Brett Allen Sawyer and a photo lab employee by the name of Lawrence Sean Smith who allegedly sold crime scene and coroner photos to the tabloid paper The Globe for $5,500. Well, joining us now is Tony Frost. He is the editor of The Globe. And he's here. You got to explain this, Tony. A lot of people don't understand how you made the decision to put those shots in The Globe.
Very simply, it focused attention on the real issues of this case. At the time, everyone was speculating that it was probably a kidnapping gone wrong. These photographs showed that JonBenét was the victim of an evil, vicious pervert. She was the victim of a sick sex game played by someone she knew. And say the experts who examined those photographs, someone she trusted and someone she knew well.
Wait, what's this?
That has not been proven.
You're saying it hasn't been proven?
That's speculation on your part.
Not speculation on my part,
That's speculation
madam.
on your part. That child, that angel child is dead. That child is in a box. There are parents there. There's family. Mothers' hearts are breaking for this family and this child.
Would you like me to answer your question?
And the reason why you publish those photos are to sell newspapers.
You said it was speculation
Your
by us.
newspapers
It was not speculation
are not even
by us.
tabloid. Your newspapers, from where I come from, are rag papers. You do that to sell papers, to have the readers come and look at that. Did you think that was really necessary? Do you think that's going to help the
May I
police?
say this?
Let him answer.
Let me jump in here.
Sure. Steve, hold on 1 second. I'm going to let you jump in right after Tony. then Steve.
First of all, the lady incorrectly said that was speculation by Globe. It was not speculation by Globe. It was speculation by one of the most renowned coroners in the United States, a man who examined those photographs, a man who has handled 11,000 autopsies and is considered and recognized as an expert on the Robert and John F. Kennedy assassinations. He's the person who came up with those theories. Okay. The second thing...
Yes, Steve, jump in.
Let me just jump in here. I'm not here as a public relation man for Tony Frost, and I'll leave the morality of this and what line you cross to other people. But let me just say that the particular photos of showing an arm and showing a piece of rope and a piece of wood, to me in itself was not offensive. Now I could see it being an emotional trauma to the immediate family, but let me just say, I've seen absolutely hundreds of crime scenes that have eventually led to the murderer. In this case, a person who could be unrelated to the scene could see a special kind of twine and say, I know where that twine was bought. I can also tell you a piece of wood. I've seen much more minuscule things from crime scenes that have led to the killer. And I'd also like to add that there would be no reason whatsoever why that police chief, Tom Kobe, who to me is like the Inspector Clouseau of investigation, there is no reason why he should not have published that ransom note. Reason being, someone could have recognized a phraseology within that note that could have identified the real killer. And there's precedent. Right now, if it hadn't been for the New York Times and the Washington Post publishing Kaczynski's manifesto, that man, the alleged Unabomber, would still be running around blowing people's heads and arms off, because it was his brother who recognized the phraseology in the New York Times and the Washington Post, who went to the cops and said, tragically, I think the Unabomber is indeed my brother.
There was quite a response, though, Tony.
Yes,
in Colorado, hundreds of stores yanked your tabloid off of their store shelves. They said, we're not going to support this type of insensitivity.
I'm very glad you've raised that, Rolonda. The initial groundswell of controversy was fueled by the inaccurate reporting of the mainstream media and false statements from the coroner's office that we had autopsy photographs. We didn't have autopsy photographs. And may I say that as the week went on and people actually bothered to go out and get Globe, and I believe most people who have made these adverse comments have not even seen Globe, so their comments are without merit, but most people who went out and bought Globe have actually called me and written to me thanking me. Now, I've had calls from Boulder. I've had people from Boulder say they've driven 20, 25 miles to get Globe, and they've called and said, well done, Globe, don't drop the ball.
One quick question, did sales go up?
I'm sorry?
Were sales up?
It's too early to tell at the moment, but at the moment it looks like it's an above average sale. You won't know for 6 weeks. That's the way the figures are estimated.
Okay, well, coming up, I want you to meet a woman who says that child beauty pageants send out a very warped message to little girls. I want you to stay with us for more as we discuss JonBenét Ramsey, One Little Lost Beauty. Just being just a piece of the life of a little girl that we lost, JonBenét Ramsey. We've been discussing whether the media has gone too far, and we've been talking with Tony, the editor of the Globe, who made the decision to put in the coroner pictures of JonBenét, and that has caused quite a debate. What do you say about this?
I don't think they went too far, because the police went and checked their house when they sent them the ransom note, and then the little girl, after the police and everybody leave, she mysteriously come back in the house. That's funny. You would think the parents said, look how we poured our heart out to Susan Smith when all her kids died. You got to suspect somebody, and the first person you'll suspect is the parents.
So what you're saying is, with the media attention to it, we're going to get to the bottom of the story. Is that what you're saying?
Well, Tony, it was reported, Rolanda, that there was something like 12 to 15 individuals who had keys to that house. So there's a lot of speculation. But what I would say, is that on Globe's decision to publish those photographs, I made the decision as editor, not just as a hard-nosed tabloid journalist, but also as a father of 3 children. I have a little girl who's 8, going on 8, not 23, and I thought long and hard about her in coming to that
This father over here is steaming.
Ask you a question, sir. You're a father of 3.
Yes.
How come you weren't there taking pictures of the little boys coming out of Susan Smith's car as it was dripping wet? But
Well,
you were worried about the little pageant girl.
Well, I think if you, well, you're right. Let me say. I think, may I answer that? Well, I think that the audience have applauded your question. I think if they'd seen Globe's coverage of Susan Smith, they would have applauded that too.
Rolonda?
What do you say?
Rolonda, this
I
is...
say, if,
Just one moment, Steve. I'll come right to you.
Okay.
if this were a 6-year-old little inner city girl, would you be so helpful in publishing pictures
that's a very
in
good
the Globe?
question. That's a very,
if she
very
didn't
good
come from
question.
that station in life,
Yeah.
if she was a little Hispanic girl from Upper
You're
Manhattan,
absolutely right.
would pictures be stolen from the rooms of the autopsy and published, or is it because of their wealth and station?
First of all, may I say that in terms of answering you about stolen pictures, as far as Globe's concerned, when Globe published those photographs, there was no question of Globe being involved in anything to do with breaking the law. We do not break the law. Secondly, you're absolutely right. The reason this is such an emotional case is because this is a privileged child. The father runs a $1 billion company. The mother is a former Miss Virginia. They live in a $750,000 mansion. Let's be frank, that's why this case is getting such attention.
And Rolanda, let's look at the case of Ennis Cosby.
I think the life of any 6-year-old child, little girl, is privileged, and equally privileged.
Absolutely
we should be grieving the loss of a little angel, not just a wealthy little girl with fancy clothes.
Everyone should be concerned. Absolutely right.
We have 2 Steves out there. Steve Gandel, why don't you speak first, and then Steve Dunleavy, your follow.
Rolonda, you know, we can debate whether or not the Globe went too far and crossed a line. My problem is the Boulder police haven't given us a line to cross. They haven't given us anything. They haven't used us and utilized us. I've got to agree with the other Steve on the show. As a reporter, listen, I covered the hostage crisis in Iran where the White House and the State Department used us to get information out. I can tell you that sources close to the investigation, close to the team that the Ramsey family have hired, feel the same way.
Well, why do you think that's happening?
Information they want the media to use, and they've got to give us a line and then debate whether we cross this, but give us that line.
Why is this happening, Dunleavy? Why do you think this is happening?
Well, I really believe that the police chief and the entire Boulder Police Department know more about skiing they do in an investigation. One of the big questions that was brought up is that why indeed did the Ramseys hire lawyers? Now, they had spoken to police. They've spoken to police at length, width, and breadth. It was just, was there a formal questioning? No, but they had lawyers there. The reason is that Kobe's statement as he was lecturing the press and making excuses for the snail's pace of the investigation, he was the person after Patsy said someone's out there killing my little child. He was the person who said, oh, no, 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 we're keeping the investigation completely into the family unit. That immediately connotates they're suspects. Now both the people are fairly sophisticated, well-to-do, and they know that Boulder Police Department, and that was one of the reasons why they indeed got a lawyer. But let me get to the point about whether if that had been a little inner-city Hispanic girl. It's a tragic commentary on all of us, and perhaps the consumers of the media, the people who watch television, the people who read newspapers. There's a very good reason why you, Yolanda, have this as a whole show.
Rolonda.
Just the very same way. Now, Rolanda, now let me just say this. Ennis Cosby was tragically gunned down here in Los Angeles. On that very night, there were 2 inner-city kids who were murdered also. If it hadn't have been for Bill Cosby's great largesse, when he indeed called the parents of these poor unfortunate children, nobody would have known about those 2 other homicides. It's just a case, rich and famous, privileged. Yeah,
but it's more, this is Steve Gandel. I honestly think it's more than that. Because when you come out to Boulder, this is a community where people are supposed to be safe. They're supposed to feel safe. As we've heard, the Ramseys don't always even set their alarm, despite the fact that they live in a very expensive house. And if you can't feel safe in Boulder,
Exactly.
My God, where can you feel safe in this country?
Also, Rolanda,
And that shakes us all.
On the police investigation, I do feel sympathy towards my two colleagues that not getting much information from the police, but I think that the police do actually have their ducks in a row, and they're waiting for certain items to come back from the forensic labs, and then they will make a decisive strike.
Joining us as we continue this discussion and talk about the media and child beauty pageant controversies is Susie Carpenter McMillan. She's founder and president of the Women's Coalition, and she refuses to let her daughter compete. At least she did refuse to let her daughter compete in beauty pageants until she turned 16. Susan, I know you have some major concerns about this whole pageant business, and we'll talk with you about that right after this. We'll be back, folks. You can see in our audience today, we have some little queens in here. All these tiaras, these beautiful little kids all dressed up. Lots of folks all across America take this very seriously in having their children in pageants, and certainly a lot of attention has, unfortunately, through tragedy, been brought to the pageant business. Well, not everybody believes that pageants are all that great, especially for little girls. Susan, you're one of them. You said your child will not even compete until they're 16. Why?
Boy, I'll tell you, this whole discussion, I'm just all over the place on the whole thing. Let me just say one thing. Tony, I got to tell you, I was appalled when you printed those pictures. I'm even more appalled at the sleazebag, the little slugs that crawled out from underneath a rock to steal those pictures. Mm-hmm. So I think that we have to be very sensitive when you're talking about someone's life, and especially a little child. Now, when it comes to the beauty pageants, my daughter is actually in the beauty pageant system. In fact, Rolonda, you know my daughter, mm-hmm. Cameo. Cameo's 18 now. And when she was young and came to me, I said, no, not at this point, because I felt like I didn't want, and Cameo is beautiful. She is a gorgeous, gorgeous woman. But I really wanted her value to be not just outwardly. Now, I must say, in all fairness to the pageants, I agree with this father over here. I also denied her from doing gymnastics and ice skating. Mm-hmm. Because when you have something that has the big prize at the end, like the Olympics or the crown or whatever, something that's very limited, I did not want her to get into that. She's in the pageant system now. Mm-hmm. There's some wonderful positive things about it. And let me just give you a real quick story to tell you why I kept her out and how it's paid off. When she ran for the state Miss USA, it was her first time, and she came out afterwards, and she hadn't made the top 15. And she came out and she said, I am so mad. And I said, well, honey, you know, it's your first state competition. Why should you care? She says, I'm not mad I didn't win, Mom. I went up and threw my arms around the winner. I am so mad at these girls that are crying and basically saying to the winner, I should have won, not you. Mm-hmm. That's when I knew that she took this way, the pageants, the way that it should be taken.
What do you think when you hear things like that? You're a pageant lady.
Yes, I am. I've gotten very negative things out of this show. I really don't think that it is necessary to publish these photos. Just let this family grieve, and really, she's just 6 years old. Also, pageants are not that bad. I've competed in many pageants, and I have won scholarships, like in Joanne Guerin's pageant, and they're really great. They're not that bad at all.
But see, you're older, and I think that's fine. And I think, listen, I wrote a whole op-ed piece on the positive side of pageants, but there is a downside. And when I look at JonBenét, I don't see a cute little girl like I do in the front row. Those are beautiful little girls. Mm-hmm. This is a beautiful woman child. Mm. This is not a cute child. Mm-hmm. This is a beautiful child. Mm-hmm. I did not. When I look at these little girls, I have a smile on my face. They're beautiful. They're darling.
You know
They're
something,
girls.
Susan? It's amazing you say that, because in one published report, after these photographs of JonBenét in very heavy makeup, more suited for a woman 3 times her age, it says,
yes.
The quote came, "It's impossible to look at these photos and not see a terribly exploited little girl." This comes from the Denver Chief Deputy District Attorney, Karen Steinhauser. She goes on to say, you get this uncomfortable, sad feeling that she did not get the chance to see a normal 6-year-old kid's life.
All right, let me make a point that I think everybody is missing. And working with abused and molested children, this has not been made, and I'm going to make it very bluntly, so forgive me. I don't think this is nearly, and I really am opposed to how she looked, but I don't think this is nearly about beauty pageants as it is a child that I don't think that night that she died was her first molestation. I think you're looking at a child who was used and abused and molested and re-molested. And that's what we really need to be talking about too.
When we come back, we're going to meet a young lady who knows what it's like to sashay down the child beauty pageant runway. She's been in competition since she was 2 years old and won her very first car at the age of 3. We're going to talk with this 13-year-old beauty pageant queen and her mom right after this commercial. Shots like that made Steve Dunleavy say what he said earlier today, that little JonBenét, in his opinion, had more changes of costumes than a Las Vegas showgirl. And it's things that Susan brought up that's concerned, that this was a little girl who looked so far beyond her years, and that was some of the concern about what people have seen about what pageants might have done to JonBenét. Our next guest certainly knows what it's like to walk down that child beauty pageant runway and to receive a tiara. She's been winning competitions since she was 2 years old. In fact, she won her very first car at only the age of 3. I'd like you to welcome from Gulfstream, Florida, 13-year-old beauty queen Priscilla and her mom, Patricia. Welcome. There are lots of folks, you've heard it here, who say, you know, you're the stage mother, you're pushing her. That's not the way young girls should grow up. You're stealing her innocence. What do the two of you say to someone like Susan who may say that?
Oh, I definitely don't think she's pushing me. This is something I really enjoy. I've been doing it since I was extremely little, and she said it's up to me. If I want to do it, I can do it. If I don't, then she'll find something else to do with me together.
Did the two of you sit down? Did you have a conversation with your daughter and let her and tell her, now listen, this is just competition. This isn't the way, I'm not asking you to grow up too soon. Did you have that type of conversation at all?
As she got older, I did. She started when she was quite young, so there was no conversation. I did it with her because I thought she enjoyed it at the time. As she got older, her father and I suggested to her, would she like to do something else? She was doing many other things besides pageants, but she still wanted to do the pageant.
Have you seen your daughter grow in a positive way because of the pageant?
Absolutely.
In what
absolutely.
way?
I think that she, for 13 years old, I think she's extremely self-confident. Her social skills have grown tremendously. She has children in her class at school that are afraid to get up and give an oral book report. And Priscilla isn't afraid to do that.
I will agree, having watched my daughter, it is wonderful training when they're older. And again, I don't think, and I don't mean this as criticism, I don't think it's pushing a child. So many parents say that, well, they push their children. I don't think that Patsy Ramsey pushed her child at all. She had her own successful, wonderful career. There's a thing called age appropriateness. It's a word that both of my kids hate. My 12-year-old now is saying, Mom, when can I wear makeup? And I'm saying, you're going to have to wait another year. And I think it's the same thing with beauty pageants. I think there's some good things in beauty pageants, but it all has to do with saying, no, dear, not now, we're going to wait. That's all I'm saying.
This is your little daughter, right? Hi, how old are you? What's your name?
Amber.
Amber, and how old are you?
5.
Amber's 5. Amber, you have some lipstick on. Why do you talk to her? You know, because you're hearing this, the makeup, the dress. How do you deal with this in your family?
Well, I have a 12-year-old daughter named Alicia who's been competing since she was 2. They have savings bonds in the bank. She's won a television. She has savings bonds in the bank. My 12-year-old is like the head of her class. Like she said, oral reports. She's the head of the cheerleading squad because she has the confidence that she never had before pageants.
Now, you're not a stage mom, are you?
No, I'm not.
Your kids really enjoy this. Do you see other mothers, though, that are pushing their kids a little much?
Yes, there are some. I do agree there are some. But ask her. She'll tell you, if she likes to do them or not. You know, there was one comment I did have.
Why all that makeup? Why all that makeup, the lady said.
Okay.
But come here. I need to hear you on the microphone to get your point. Let me hear what you're saying over here. What's your concern?
My concern is that these kids are kids, and I think they don't have a mind of their own. It's the parents and got these kids looking like old women. Then when they do get a certain age, they gonna look too old. It don't make sense.
Wait, let this mother respond.
Okay, I was going to be very nice and calm about this.
All right, go for it.
Okay, I had read in, I don't know what tabloid it was, it may have been the Globe, that there are men who are getting turned on by 5-year-olds. Now, if there's a man in this room that is turned on by my little girl, I think they should see a psychiatrist.
We're going to continue this. I've got to take a quick break. We will continue this debate right after this commercial. We'll be right back. I'm going to come right to you. Did not even stop during the commercial after the lady stood up. Really, it stood up and said these kids are too grown with all this makeup. Priscilla, you even got up in ire. What were you thinking?
Well, I know from experience in pageants, you have to wear a lot of makeup. There's bright lights. I know at my church, when I was in the Nutcracker also, they load makeup for any theater show. You could even have twice as much as you wear in a pageant.
Here's a grandmother of a young queen, 6-year-old.
She's 6 years old, and if she can't win on her own beauty and her own merit, then she shouldn't win. If she can't, this child's out there fighting for her. She's out there fighting for a title on her own merits, not because she's got a wig in her head, makeup on her face, and a $500 dress. She's out there winning on what she has, her own self. And when she's up there winning, whether she wins or loses,
Rolonda,
she's my granddaughter, and I love it. I'm not
Rolonda, the makeup is for your stage life. When you go into a personal interview, you don't wear makeup.
This is very clear because they're babies and they don't need the makeup. Their parents do.
Maybe this really quick. I have a psychologist here, and I want to make sure that the parents who are involved in this type of thing understand what impact this may have on our kids.
And that little girl has on lipstick.
She has lip gloss. With a backing that's gloss. That is her own face. She was challenged one day. She pinches her cheeks. That's God's way.
That's abuse.
Very quickly, Susan, and then let me get to Carol.
Very quickly, I just want to say that this is very controversial, even within the own pageant world. I've talked to my daughter's director and many directors who looked at the pictures of JonBenét and said, this is disgusting. I think what this grandmother said is very, very true. There's a huge difference.
Carol, let me get in here. A psychologist who's been working with families for more than 20 years, and she believes that if a child says that they want to participate in a pageant, the parents should not listen to them, is what clinical psychologist Dr. Carol Friedland says. Why?
Because children who are 6 years old are in no position to make decisions for their lives.
Is this something kids? Oh, you really upset the folks over here. What what is the worst thing that could happen to these kids? These beautiful little girls with tiaras, and your concern is...
Rolonda, in our society, physical beauty for a woman is very important. If, you know, the pretty girl is going to get the job before the fat, ugly girl, it's unfortunate, but it's true. So a woman needs to learn how to make herself beautiful, how to carry herself, how to put on makeup, how to coordinate an outfit. Very important. But a 6-year-old child who is taught to be sexual, which is really what we're talking about. Okay, time out. Let me finish, please.
One thing to say, only one thing to say.
Please let me finish. What happens is the men are going to be turned on by this, and we're opening them for it's very sick. You're right.
But aren't they going to be turned on whether those kids have on tiaras or not?
Okay, no. Absolutely, Rolonda. But what happens in the vision of the woman child, as Susan said, is perpetuated through adulthood, where we have 40-year-old women trying to make their bodies look like 10, and it develops eating disorders and all kinds of, plastic surgery. Women who are afraid to be women. It's starting far too young in
What do you
kids.
say?
I've been a beauty queen since I was 5 years old. My mother put makeup on me when I was 5 years old. To this day, all I do is wear lipstick unless I'm in a pageant.
You look naturally beautiful.
Thank you. But what I'm trying to get at is that pageants were nothing but positive for me.
Beautiful.
They made me I became a stronger person from them.
Rolonda,
and a little bit makeup has nothing to do with it because you wipe the makeup
I don't think
off
we're
and
talking
the
about the
person's still
makeup.
underneath.
We're talking about particularly this one poor child who was killed.
Let me take a break. I'll be right back in a minute. I'll be right back. So you're Jennifer and you're 5 years old, and what were you telling me?
I like to do pageants, and I like to.
You like them?
I like to get some crowns and trophies.
You do?
Banners.
You say you like to win, huh? One of the things that we were talking about is just how important this is to some families. Carol, for those who have been watching this and scared to death that they might have made the wrong decision to let their kid in a pageant, what is the thing that a parent needs to do with a little precious one like this who they want to see win? They want to build self-esteem. That's the reason some of the reasons they put them in pageants.
The pageants are, in these young women that we see here, building poise and confidence, and that's what we want in our children. If a child is physically beautiful and can develop that skill, there are many other skills that the child will have. It's a parent's job to provide the child with a broad base of experience, and the beauty pageant can be part of it.
Rolonda.
What if the child isn't physically pretty?
Wait a minute, Steve, you gone? Very quickly, Steve and Steve out in Denver, I want to thank you so much. Keep up your good work. Continue to send us those good reports, and I cannot thank you enough for being with us. Thank you. Very quickly here, yes.
Hi, I was doing Miss American College Pageant in 1987. We were never encouraged to dress sexy. We were always told not to be competitive with the other girls. What I have to say is, even though it was given 10 years ago, we were never told how to dress. I understand, yes, you need to wear makeup, but it doesn't need to be globbed on you to make you look 10 years older than you are.
That's the difference. We need a standard here. You can't have some pageants that allow JonBenéts and other ones like this. You need some kind of a standard like they have.
We'll see you next time.
Hey, are you enjoying this episode of Rolonda? If so, please hit the subscribe button and let me know. Leave your comments and also follow me in other forms of social media at Rolonda Watts. Remember, that's ROLONDA, Rolonda Watts on all forms of social media. And if you're interested in voice acting, my goodness, let me help you. This is a new year coming. It could be a new you, a new career. Check out my voice acting masterclass at Rolonda.com, ROLONDA.com, and I'll tell you all about it.